Ladies and gentlemen, patriots all over this great country that is under God, welcome to tonight's town hall, the flagship of RAF organization. RAF organization is a non-profit movement dedicated to uniting Christian patriots to reclaim America's founding principles of faith, freedom, and constitutional governance. Through bold education, grassroots, and relentless pursuit of truth, we are training leaders, exposing corruption, and igniting revival to ensure God-honoring future for our nation in 2026 and beyond. At the heart of RAF are 8 powerful pillars, each led by dedicated national pillar leaders who guide strategy and resources. On the ground, our state directors lead local teams, recruiting county and state public officers, hosting events, and building grassroots army that will flip districts and restore righteousness. Hashtag Town Hall is where we, the people, take the reins, dive into the fight that matters, because together we rise.
And I'm your co-host, Valerie Weiss. Tonight, we are honored to have Tim Marden, who is the newly appointed constitutional law scholar at the John Birch Society, bringing decades of experience as a former mayor, attorney, and entrepreneur dedicated to defending constitutional principles and fighting federal overreach. Next Thursday, join us on hashtag Town Hall with Ralph Pezzulo, New York Times best-selling author on election integrity expert. His groundbreaking book, Stolen Elections, exposes a 19-year global plot to sabotage elections in over 70 countries, including Smartmatic's ties to Venezuelan elites, drug cartel, and U.S. susceptibility. Ralph will break down foreign espionage, domestic abuse of power, and proven strategies for patriots to secure our elections in 2026 and beyond. Do not miss this powerful discussion. Patriots, hashtag Pastor's Point will not be on this coming Monday because of Martin Luther King Day, but they will resume Monday, January 26th with chapter 14 of the book of Revelation. This Saturday, February 17th at 7 p.m.
January 17th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place when I'm scheduling stuff. This Saturday, January 17th at 7 p.m., join us for Faith in Action for Liberty, a powerful webinar event where we will unite in prayer, strategy, and steps to reclaim our nation for Christ and freedom in 2026. Mark your calendars and spread the word. Patriots, don't forget our resiliency pillar is on the move. We are raising funds right now for a critical mission to train communities in Ecuador's Andes region to build clean water systems, bringing life-saving water to families who need it the most. Head to givesandgo.com/RAF Clean Water for Ecuador to donate today and help us equip the people of Ecuador with the tools for self-reliance and hope. Every dollar counts. Let's make clean water for the Andes a reality together.
We need your warrior support to keep this mission charging forward. Our team thrives on the generosity of patriots like you. Even $20 fuels our national crusade against the deep state. Head to givesandgo.com/RedAmericaFirst/donate. For those that are joining the live stream, we're looking to grow our live panel. Panel members engage directly with guests like Tim Marden or General Flynn or Steve Bannon, et cetera, and participate in the famous state-to-state intel round. Sign up today, RedAmericaFirst.com, and let us know that you want to be a panel member. Every week on hashtag Town Hall, we start with prayer, Pledge of Allegiance, and a national anthem. Very important to us. Everyone, let's bow our heads. We're going to call on Dr. Aaron Gray, host of hashtag Pastor's Point. He's going to lead us into prayer tonight. Thank you so much in advance. And we're going to bow our heads. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank everybody for joining us. Let's come together and pray. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all you've given us. Lord, we know that today was given a gift from you for us to go forth into this world, your creation, to grow your kingdom, to share your light, to give grace, mercy, love, joy, peace in this dying world. So as we come together, we ask you to encourage our hearts, strengthen our spirits, give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a spirit to know and understand how it is. What do you want us to do here in this time, moving forward in this country? We ask you, Lord, to lead us. Let it not be about us. Let us not be what we want, Father. But Lord, most of all, let it be for you, by you, from you, because of you. Reminding us, Lord, that we do not belong to ourselves. You have paid a heavy price, the price of your blood, so that we could be free. We could have redemption, salvation, forgiveness in you. We just thank you for that. So Lord, as your word says, to count the cost and to join together, Lord, that's what we do. We come together, desiring to please you, to live lives worthy of your sacrifice, worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's what we ask to promote here and now. In the name of Jesus, we all say, amen.
Thank you for that, Pastor Gray. Now we're going to call on Rob Ohio. He's going to come up with the American flag. And then Valerie, co-founder of Red America First, will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much. Wait a second here. We're having some technical difficulties. Apologies.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. Now we're going to call on Leslie Mahan. She is the Oklahoma State Director, and she's going to do the national anthem for us. And she's going to join Rob with the flag here. And go ahead, Leslie. Thank you so much.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave.
Amazing job, Leslie. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that.
Thank you.
As always, Leslie is an amazing vocalist from Oklahoma, and she is our state leader there. What an amazing job she does every week. So let's get Tim Marden up here. What an amazing way to start our interview. And you are currently a mayor. Remind us in a second what city you're mayor of, but tell us where you grew up, a little bit about you, some hobbies, and thank you so much for coming on #Town Hall tonight. Go ahead, Tim. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Happy to be here. I was actually born in New Hampshire, and my mom moved us down here to Florida, where I currently reside. When I was 10, I went to the University of Florida. You can see my diploma there in the background, which is in north central Florida, about 2 hours north of Tampa and Orlando, kind of in the middle of the state. And graduated from there. got married, had 2 kids, and never really got too far from the university itself. So now I live in Newberry, Florida, where I am the mayor. I previously served as a commissioner for 12 years and was elected mayor last April. So I've been serving for a little less than a year now in my current role.
Okay. I don't know if it was in your bio, but it said former, so I apologize to you about that. We
That's
live in
okay.
Florida
No,
too. We're Central Florida also.
okay, yeah,
Davenport.
I'm actually not an attorney. I don't. That was not right either. But
Okay, sorry. It just was the information we got from some from.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
sure, sure,
yes.
absolutely. I'm my current position with the John Birch Society is a director of marketing, national director of marketing. I also do fundraising. I've been a field coordinator here in the state of Florida before as well, and I got involved with the Birch Society really in the run up to the Obama election. I didn't know really how it was possible for a one-time senator from a little state like Illinois could possibly become president. So I started digging around. I found the Birch Society, just fell in love with it. It really answered a lot of my questions because what I ended up figuring out is I was just kind of looking at things a little bit wrong, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to get into some of that later.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as mayor, who's spent battling federal overreach, how do you see President Trump's proposed tariffs actually delivering for American workers and industries after decades of unfair trade deals that shipped jobs overseas?
Yeah, understood. So we see the tariffs as really just one part of a bigger picture
Yeah.
of really just kind of global overreach. Um, I I was reading actually just the other day that Trump was contending that he had already taken in $18 trillion worth of tariffs. So I'm curious as to where all that money has gone because there's only about a $4 trillion federal budget, and I don't see the debt going down anytime soon. The tariffs are kind of interesting from an economic standpoint. I got my degree in economics at the University of Florida, and it's sort of like taxes. Taxes are really never really completely paid for by the businesses. The businesses are kind of pass-throughs. The government is kind of playing this role now with tariffs, where they're really just kind of passing those costs of tariffs are really ultimately probably just getting passed on down to the consumer by and large. And what's kind of interesting is if you and I heard this through a talk from Tom DiLorenzo over at the Mises Institute, and he was kind of describing a situation with tariffs where, let's say you and your competitor are currently, maybe you're charging domestically $100 for a product, and maybe the foreign company is charging $80. You put in a tariff, and let's say the foreign company is now having to pay $150 to get the same product in. So they're at 150, you are at 100.
Mhm.
So you could theoretically, as a domestic supplier, increase your price up to 130, 140, or maybe you want to go full send, and do 150 like the foreigner because you can max it out. Well, now we have products that were originally potentially domestically being charged $100. The foreign products were $80, but now because of the tariffs, products prices have gone up. Now, I don't necessarily know that completely plays out perfectly in every scenario, but I think there is a kind of an argument to be made there. So I don't know that tariffs just automatically can be assumed to hurt the foreign company and help the domestic company. But what I do think is it does at least change the marketplace a little bit. I think there is room for at least the domestic companies who are getting their products made abroad. It gives them pause to think about, well, maybe I need to potentially domesticate some of these products or processes that we're doing overseas. So those sorts of things do come into play, I do believe.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Tim. If you had a crystal ball, SCOTUS may overturn Trump's tariffs. Could be as early as tomorrow. they really haven't announced the next opinion yet. But what would the impact be to the economy and to the American people from your perspective?
Well, I think the market really will settle things out either way. What I think is probably kind of a bigger issue here is really the constitutionality of how these things really play out. Uh, Trump has kind of overreached in some constitutional things here as of late. Congress is not really doing their job constitutionally as well. So even if even if the ideal situation were to develop, I don't know that it even necessarily plays out because we have so much friction just kind of in the system overall. I really don't like the idea of, nine people in black robes, being the judge and jury and executioner of all of this stuff, because uh, our founders really saw the Supreme Court as sort of an advisory. They weren't the end all be all. We remember and we've heard stories about President Jackson, how he just kind of ignored the Supreme Court's advice, and I think that could be something that Trump pulls out. Uh, we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens with that. But excuse me, um, I think it's just we should look at all of these as opportunities to educate people about how government really should be operating. And all these things sort of tell us that government is really too big, too expensive, and way intrusive in our lives. And it really was never meant to be that way. Government wasn't really supposed to be a full-time job for a lot of these people, for the representatives or for the citizens to have to try to keep track of. And today, boy, we have a lot of government going on. So I know myself as a mayor, I look to shrink government as much as possible. One of my kind of guiding principles is that government is really the least efficient allocator of resources that there is. So every dollar, every bit of energy that goes through the washing machine of government comes out the other side less efficient. So the smaller footprint that government can have in our lives, the better, because those efficiencies come back to us as citizens.
So going back to the SCOTUS again, if they had a decision to overturn the Chevron deference, and that was a game changer, in curbing unelected bureaucrats. In your view, as from a constitutional law perspective, and how does that ruling restore power to the people and the states? And what does that mean for the kind of limited government we need heading into 2026?
Well, I'm not sure necessarily that particular case, but it's probably important to point out in the Constitution, under Article 1, Section 8, there are what we commonly refer to as few and defined delegated powers to Congress. And as the Bill of Rights 10th Amendment says, and Michael Bolden does a great job at the 10th Amendment Center on this, it basically says everything else is reserved to the states and the people. Obviously, those lines get crossed quite a bit. And what I really kind of see is a lot of the educational aspects of what government is supposed to be have been purposefully taken out of our education system to make people unaware of these things. And when we are unaware, we don't really know when our representatives are, doing something wrong. If you equate it to a football game, for instance, we don't know when they're offsides or when they're creating a pass interference or something like that. And we know from watching football, some of those infractions are small, but some of them will actually get you kicked out of the game. A lot of these folks keep getting reelected. And if we don't understand really what the holistic approach to government and what it was supposed to be, we start seeing a lot of these kind of blind spots. So, going into the SCOTUS opinion and how that really applies, sort of presupposes that the system is okay to begin with and that it'll actually fulfill its intended intent, when it actually kind of works its way through the governmental system. And I don't really have the confidence that it really does that anymore because we are so far out of bounds.
Do you feel like we're going to go back more towards the constitutional law? Like, do you feel like that's what we're going to be doing?
So longer term, I certainly hope that there is an opportunity to do that. I think it's really the only way out, quite frankly, out of this sort of mess and quagmire that we're in, where, like I said, we got big government's too big, too expensive, too intrusive. So it is really the only way out. Freedom, we see it as the only cure. Because you've got central banking, you've got all of these misconstitutional capabilities, abilities, all happening all at the same time. So it's very important that people focus on education, and that's what I really think the Birch Society brings to the table is the solution-based education and action programs. Like I said, because I think that is really the only thing that really cures the government disease that we have right now. A lot of times you'll see government is sort of the scientists, and they're creating the disease and the cure in the same lab. And what it really does to us at the retail level as a citizen is it just gives them more and more power. You see this with things like DHS, the TSA. You saw all these things during COVID, and when government grows, it has an inverse impact on liberty, right? So that goes down, and we know from history and just from looking at things objectively, is you really only get liberty when you combine a moral component and a freedom component together. The two of them together equal liberty, because I have the freedom to go kill somebody if I wanted to, but my moral code keeps those guardrails in, so I don't do something like that because I don't believe in those sorts of things. So you've got to have the moral component that governs your freedom to do things, because we're infallible people. The Bible tells us that, and you have to have that combination to really have freedom. We only see government in its role at about, if you look at a scale from 1 or from 0 to 100, at about the 20% mark. We've done a video. It's called Overview of America. You can look it up on our YouTube channel. It kind of goes into that a little bit more, and it talks about how some rules do make us a little bit safer. They make us a little bit freer. So there is a place for it to be in our lives, but it just should never be where it is today.
Yeah, I agree. You fought federal encroachment from both sides of the aisle. What's the single biggest constitutional principle you think Americans need to rally behind right now to protect our sovereignty and stop the slide towards centralized control?
Oh boy, that's a pretty deep question. I see a lot of the root of the problem in central banking, I think, because the spending doesn't happen without the central bank. And we see things like what Nick Shirley did here a couple weeks ago in Minnesota. If the government was following the Constitution to begin with, there would never be money going to Minnesota that was getting stolen through these fraud schemes at the daycares and the non-emergency medical transport. So it, and again, the Congress wouldn't have been able to do that if they didn't have a central bank, because the money supply would be finite, and they can't just go over and turn on the printing press, right? So that is really a big key to it. Certainly morality, like we just talked about, is a big key to it as well, because we were built for a moral people. I think John Adams was the one that talked about that as a founding father. So those are two really, really big things. And then I think probably just understanding, what the role of government is. I mean, you can see all the different things that happen where people just, they rely on the government way too much. They think that the government is the fix when the government is truly actually probably part of their problem to begin with. So again, going back, if we can get that smaller and smaller, we have a much better position to really get back to what we were really kind of built for and wired for as a country. A lot of things that we have in this country are totally unique to America. We have kind of shirked some of those responsibilities because we've frankly kind of gotten a little bit lazy here and there. We don't take our role of responsibility as deep and thoughtful as we probably could. So some of this onus is definitely on us, and I think we need to recognize that, and we just need to stop looking at government to be the one that's supposed to be saving us or fixing our problems.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we're going to open up Q&A to our panel members here shortly. So those that are watching the live stream, we have members from all over the 50 states of our great nation under God. We're going to open that Q&A session up soon. Next question is, the economy is top of the mind of every family between inflation, job losses. How can we rebuild a prosperous, God-honoring nation that puts American workers first again? And where do these tariffs fit into that picture? Because on the conservative side, we're enjoying the, I guess, shift of finances coming into our country instead of being imposed on the American people. What do you think about that? Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I think a good starting point is understanding what inflation is. A lot of people, if you ask them what inflation is, they'll tell you it's the rising prices. Well, that's not really quite the whole picture. The rising prices are really a reflection and a result of inflation. And what inflation is an increase in the money supply artificially. And that is done through central banking. Let's equate it to, let's say that there was a central bank for weight. Okay, so today they say a pound is so much, but tomorrow they decide that they're going to change the dial and they're going to make what was a pound equivalent to what's 3/4 of a pound. So they have this this artificial way of manipulating what a pound is. The central bank is doing the same thing with money. So every time that they just print money, it's like watering down your iced tea. It just gets worth less and worth less and worth less. If you look back, and you can look it up online, there's some great graphs that show that a dollar is worth about 1 to maybe generously 3% of what it was worth 100 years ago. And that's because you have the Federal Reserve continuing to print and print and print and print. So if we can get everyday Americans to really kind of understand this, we're not going to have our handout for a COVID check. We're not going to have a handout waiting for cash for clunkers program and those sorts of things, because it's really, I want people to realize that all of those instruments are just more debt. It's not money that they're giving to you, it's debt that they're giving to you, because it's that money is just getting into the money supply and it's watering down the existing dollars. And because those dollars are not worth as much as they once were, that's why you see prices go up. So if you printed twice as much money, everything's going to be worth half. So what was $1 is now going to be worth $2. So on the surface, you see the price increase. It's actually just the fact that your dollars are worth a lot less. So those are very interesting dynamics that people really kind of need to understand. And that information can be very empowering. It's very difficult to resist taking a check, for instance, and that's why the government does it, because they know that it's very difficult to resist, and it kind of puts people who don't want to take a check, for instance, behind the 8 ball because everybody else is getting it. But the central bank, even when it prints money, it has to have instruments to get it into the money supply. They can't just dump it into the banks. So they come up with things like daycare programs, like the non-emergency medical transport programs, like the Cash for Clunker programs, like the student loan programs, all of those things. War is very, very expensive. That's why you have the military industrial complex that's always promoting war, because they know that the government is going to have to spend a lot of money to conduct a war. And that is just that's like a super highway of money going from the Federal Reserve printing presses right directly into the money supply.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Well, I have one last question. Looking ahead to the 2026 midterms,
Yeah.
what do you see as the most critical battleground issue or constitutional fight that patriots need to focus on to ensure we elect leaders who will defend our founding ideals and roll back the administrative state?
Well, the Birch Society, we have a media company called The New American. People can go to thenewamerican.com. They can look under something called the Freedom Index. That's a great tool that we produce twice a year, and it really outlines a sampling of constitutional votes. So we take 10 votes from the House, 10 votes from the Senate, and we square those with the Constitution. We look through a constitutional lens, and we grade those with a plus or a minus. The great thing about it is it tells you what the bill is, it gives you a little bit of a summary of the bill, and then it tells you why it is or is not constitutional. So you have a real live example of the reality versus the rhetoric. The politicians can go out and talk all they want, but that scorecard will give you exactly how they're voting and the reality of what they're actually doing. So take that and find out whether your representative is being constitutional or not. If they're not, they need to you need to rally and get people to get them voted out of office. But it's a great lesson and a way to educate other people about what they're doing, and you can use that for vetting and qualifying your candidates and seeing if they're going to actually follow the Constitution. Now, at the end of the day, it's all pocketbook issues. I think people understand, $2 gas versus $5 gas. I was at AmFest with Turning Point before Christmas, and gas out there was $5.99 a gallon. I thought I was at the wrong pump, or I was doing like super unleaded gas or something like that, but just regular gas, $5.99 a gallon. So people understand the pocketbook issues, and understanding inflation, and then just asking the hard, tough questions of these candidates. But you've got to understand what you are actually asking them, and just get active. We think of ourselves sort of as an on-ramp to get people off the couch into the battle and into the game. And we want to meet you where you are and meet you where your political IQ is, and just kind of help bring you along. But I commend anybody in the audience who's actually doing something about it. We're not going to preserve our country from a keyboard or a couch. You can get involved in your local level. Most local elections are relatively inexpensive, and that's really kind of how I got started. Like I said, almost 13 years ago. But those are a couple of answers, and I'm happy to kind of dig into them a little bit more if you think is needed.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect.
Thank
We're
you.
going to start right with our Q&A. We're going to start with our Kansas State Director, Frank. Please go ahead with your first question. Thank you so much, Frank.
Thanks, Ashley. Hey, Tim, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for all the efforts and participation in a real tough environment. Being mayor isn't as luxurious as I'm sure most people think. You mentioned about war. I mean, I've got a couple questions, but I want to try to keep it simple in the sense of, because there's things developing in that direction. But one of the things that I talked to Ashley about this, at the beginning of this term, Trump had some pretty high technology elites in his office. And so Larry Ellison was one with Oracle, Sam Altman with his Open AI. And I don't know if Jensen Huang of NVIDIA was there, but there was also some people from the medical area. where is it? I mean, and maybe this is outside your realm, but I know that the Birch Society has to have some kind of opinion of how is it that this president can offer technology elites, saying, here's $600 billion that we're going to basically allocate out of our tax coffers for you to increase advanced AI and advanced mRNA, which we know mRNA is not a good thing. I mean, you have Joseph Ladapo in your state, who is a really, really good person, and he knows the details of all that. What is it that you think, and what the Birch Society is doing to go, "Hey, wait a minute, I don't think this is really a good use of our money, and I'm not sure if I really understand, Mr. President, what direction are you going with this?" Any thoughts there?
Well, yeah, I mean these sort of uh, tangents, these sort of endeavors by the president are part of the problem. Quite frankly, we talked just a second ago about the central bank needs vehicles in order to get the money into the money supply. This is a perfect example. You're dropping $600 billion into something, and really, we need to promote free market opportunities for these sorts of things. If these things are great ideas, then people will invest in them. What we really kind of see a lot of times, and what we sort of, even just in the social circles, is we are looking for government to be the fix quicker. We want them to stop the speedboat coming out of Venezuela that's full of drugs in Venezuela. Well, that speedboat's going to be the same whether it's all the way down in Venezuela or it's going to be on our shores here in Florida. Well, constitutionally, you can protect the border at Florida. You don't need to spend the money going all the way down to Venezuela to blow up that boat. And the as far as there's just not there's just not really an efficient way of doing that unless you leave it up to the market. Let the market decide where those dollars are going to be spent, but they can't resist the we call it opium, right? Other people's money. They just can't resist. It's a way of laundering money. It's a way of getting money back to your friends that have contributed to your campaign, or you're wanting them to contribute to your campaign, or you're just using it to buy favoritism, or to buy advancement of your agenda. So we have a lot of these things that are completely out of whack, Frank. And that's really just one example. There's probably a dozen that we could probably come up with pretty quickly, just as a group here. But all of it is part of the problem, and we need to resist feeding at the trough or feeding into that. If we become candidates, we need to resist doing that. We need to stop asking our candidates to be doing those sorts of things, and just kind of get back to more of the free market principles, because those are the most efficient ways of allocating capital and resources, right? We know that just through time and intuition. We just we're so wired to want it right away, right now, this instant gratification thing. And it often, we're losing efficiency because we're turning to government. A lot of these things would get solved that might take a little bit longer, and that sort of thing. But kind of bigger picture, maybe let me step back a little bit. If you look at a lot of these things, we talk about how the globalists and the conspiracy and the insiders are kind of behind a lot of this stuff, and they want control, right? They all want control over everything that we do. Well, you have these tools, the street level protesters, for instance. All of this is really attacking the middle class, because under the socialist system, you have haves and you have have-nots. It's a big lie to believe that everybody is equal under a socialist system, because somebody's got to make the decisions. Those have-nots at the bottom and the haves up at the top are what is further down the road. There is no middle class. So if you look at attacks on the family, that's middle class. If you look at COVID, big businesses were allowed to stay open, mom and pop shops that represent the middle class were all shut down. We get attacks on education. We get attacks on the church. We get attacks on gender to distract us and those sorts of things. All of that is on the way to this have not society and getting rid of the middle class. But unfortunately, on the flip side, on the other side of that whole socialism thing is a communism thing, and Lenin warned us about that a lot.
Thank you so much for that question, Frank. Any more questions, you'll just put your hand back up. Amber Hansen is our Minnesota State Director. Go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for coming on tonight. I was just wondering how us as ordinary citizens and patriots can get more involved in like the constitutional enforcement in our state and local levels to counter federal overreach.
Good question. Really, it just really starts at City Hall. You've got to be prepared going into City Hall. I know as an elected official, one of the highest value interactions that I can have with a citizen is a face-to-face contact. After that's phone call, after that's email, then there's maybe texting, but the posting, the stuff on Facebook, the Twitters and that sort of stuff is pretty low level as far as what I value if I see a comment or something like that. Because it doesn't take people a whole lot of time to just type something out, that translates, I think, unconsciously or subconsciously to us in how important is it to that person. So if it's not very important to them, they're not spending a lot of time and energy to do it, it's not going to mean a whole lot to me either. But at the city level, those are the people who are setting your taxes. They're setting your millage rates. They're setting a lot of your regulations. They're determining whether or not you're getting your business license, or they're also deciding on the zoning laws for your area. So the local is really where it's at. The federal gets a lot of the attention. They get a lot of the headlines, but on a day-to-day basis, they don't have necessarily as much impact on our lives as we'd like to give them credit for. But if you're in the city council meetings, if you're in the school board meetings and keeping track and sharing that information, having just a group of activists that can, get into a chamber, they can make a strong case for what is good and what's not good. They'll eventually have to listen to you because we are on the side of what is right and what is righteous. And there's not too many things that can ultimately stand up against that. I know it can be a very tough road. I live in a very, very blue liberal college town. I'm also the head of the Republican Party here in my county, so I know what it is to be on the front line. But I think it's also very important that we recognize where there are victories. The victories don't always come in the election box or in the ballot box. They come in getting the person who was on the couch 6 months ago at a podium in front of a city council. That's a victory to me. Getting somebody who's otherwise really good online, sending in a letter to the newspaper or calling into a local radio talk show and contributing to the conversation is a victory in my view. So anytime that we can get people doing just a little bit more than what they're doing now is a very big victory. You can always have events where you celebrate people and really kind of sow into their lives. And I think, with the advent of social media, we're told that it would make us more connected, but we're actually less connected. So any opportunity that we can have face-to-face interaction with people, I think is really a really big help and something that we need to foster as much of as possible. That's why COVID, was really a big push by the elites, was to fragment people and get people separated and not talking anymore. So I see that for what it is. I called that, pretty much within the first couple of weeks. But once you understand some of these just minor building blocks, all the other stuff just kind of falls into place.
Thank you so much for that question, Amber. Now we're going to go to Wendy Stockhausen. She is on a host for Pastor's Point. She's also a pastor from South Carolina. Go ahead with your question, Wendy. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Thank you so much for coming on. You mentioned earlier about education in action, and I was wondering what that might look like, particularly with regard to how we educate or how we might educate the upcoming generation, right? So,
Yeah.
thoughts, whatever resources,
Sure,
how that
sure.
would work.
Sure. Yeah. We just put out a new class called Blueprint for Liberty. You can get that on our YouTube channel. It's under one of the playlists. It's called Blueprint for Liberty. It's a 13-part series. Each class is about 20 minutes. And you kind of go through different lessons about the Constitution, different lessons about government and economics, and those sorts of things. So we think that's obviously a great resource. We're in the process right now of re-editing that, and we're going to put out an even better version very shortly about that. But we encourage our chapters to go through and actually host the class. And it's also a great way to sort of get other people involved on a really sort of low investment sort of opportunity. Asking people to automatically come to our group, we're going to spend 5 hours, a night doing XYZ is a hard sell. But maybe you can get them to a small class that takes about an hour, because you can kind of knock out 2 of these in an hour. And then you just sort of kind of sprinkle the other stuff in as you go along. But it's important that we don't open up the fire hydrant, particularly on newer people, because they're just not there. They're not ready. They're not prepared.
Very, very good question, Winnie. Thank you for that. Tim's excited for that question. Now we're going to go to Pennsylvania. Sharon, go ahead. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening, Tim. My main concern is our schools and what the schools are churning out. The kids in their 20s now, I don't know if anybody else have noticed this, they can't read cursive, they can't do basic math, they don't read actual books, and they don't talk to their friends. They're always on their phones, and it's just very concerning to me. What can we do to help implement cursive back in all our schools, the Pledge of Allegiance in every schools? I'm in Pennsylvania, in a pretty rough, liberal town, and they do not like me here. And I just could use, any kind of pointers or anything, because I feel like if we can help these kids in the next 20 years, we're not going to have the same problem we have now.
No, I think that's a pretty valid observation. I honestly, I think we as parents, and maybe even our parents, kind of fell asleep a little bit, kind of relying on the government, maybe when we probably shouldn't have been, with regards to educating our kids. And that's a lot to sort of kind of unwind. And I think we just have to start with today and start changing turning the tide. It's just like, starting a new diet or starting a new habit. Once you do it for a little bit, it will become kind of second nature. So there's always an opportunity to homeschool your children. We have a homeschool company called Freedom Project Academy that is really, a top-notch program. We offer, different kinds of classroom environments in there as well. It's not all online. You can get textbooks, you can do downloads and those sorts of things. You can always put groups together, even if it means doing something after school or after traditional school, where you start teaching the kids this. I think the biggest takeaway is probably we just can't rely on other people to do it. We have to do it ourselves, and we can do that in small groups. Maybe you're a little bit better at science than your friend who's better at English, or your other friend who's better at math, and just sort of start creating that community to start unwinding some of this stuff. It's become sort of like a cancer, and you just have to start treating it a little bit at a time, and just have realistic expectations for yourself and for the students and for the kids. There's a lot of psychology behind those platforms and those phones that has to it plays into it a lot. So you see different families, they just have different personalities. You got to kind of figure out what works. Maybe it's just asking your kids to go do something else and try to occupy their time with some other things. At the end of the day, you do have to kind of be a parent, and maybe you got to use a little bit of tough love here and there, where it's, hey, let's put the phone down. We're going to go do this for a little bit while, and let them go back to it, and just kind of work the psychology a little bit in reverse. But you're not going to just be able to cut the phone off. Somebody's paying the bill, for example, so that can be turned into an economics lesson. Different things like that. I don't think there's any one magic pill. I don't think there's any one magic answer. You got to really kind of figure out what works for your family.
Thank you so much for that question, Sharon from Pennsylvania. Now we're going to go to our state director in Hawaii, Victoria. Go ahead with your question. Thank you so much.
Aloha, Tim. Thanks for being on the show. So I want to know what you think Doge's impact was on the federal budget.
I'm sorry, say that again.
What do you think Doge's impact was on the federal budget?
Oh, I got you. I thought it was great out of the gate. But at the end of the day, I don't know that the Congress or the executive really did anything with it. Ultimately, it just became information for us, but Congress didn't do anything about it. I think they need to be held accountable for that. I think they need to be held accountable at the town halls, at their offices, and certainly at the ballot box. And I think, if you have been told something and then you continue to do something otherwise, you're either lying or you become a grifter at that point, and taking advantage of the situation. But as we see what's happening in Minnesota, and the Minnesota State Director was on there, and she's got a front row seat to what's going on. They are incentivized because of the money on the other side to continue doing this behavior. There is ultimately only 435 in Congress and another 100 in the Senate. So when you actually start looking at some of the numbers, we actually do another program called the Power of 500 you can find on our YouTube page. And I don't want to give you a long-winded answer, but the majority of 435 is 218. The majority of the 218 is 109. So the magic number is more towards like the 109 than the whole 435, because the 109 is what really kind of sets the tone as far as leadership, particularly in Congress. It's a little bit different over in the Senate. And then we just have to kind of take the information from Doge, take ownership of it, and enforce it. We're ultimately the ones that are hiring these people to do this job. Yeah. And I think understanding that it's we've got to separate the personality from the performance. They may be great person, but if they're doing a lousy job, they've got to go. In my state, we had our chief financial officer, who I'm friends with in the state of Florida here. He did the Doge, and he's been auditing all kinds of organizations, but he recognizes, hey, it's just information. You guys ultimately have to do something with it at the ballot box, at the podiums, at the phone calls, at the emails, and those sorts of things, and understanding, what to actually do about it.
As long as our elections are fair.
Yeah, right. Thank you for that, Victoria. Amazing question. Now we're going to go to a colder state, Ohio, founding member of RAF. Go ahead with your question, Rob. Thank you.
Hi, Tim. My question is what's the constitutionality of using NGOs? It seems the NGOs, they are such a magnet to people that just abuse the system. Payola, that sort of thing. Is there any way that they can be controlled or maybe put better control of?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just off the bat that they're completely unconstitutional. They're used as money laundering operations, and it just has to become a priority for the American people to stop electing people that are really fostering this system to continue. But at the end of the day, they know that people on the other end are benefiting from these systems. So it's very hard to unwind. But it definitely needs to be done. And I think it's a very valid question. Hey, Mr. So and so running for office, are you willing to support legislation that gets rid of NGOs and those sorts of things, and then try to hold their feet to the fire? But yeah, they're a complete money laundering operation. They're again one of those vehicles for the central bank to be able to get money into the money supply.
Thank you for that question, Rob. Real quick, Tim, can we get 10 more minutes with you? Just wanted to get a bearings check.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry if I'm kind of going on a little bit long-winded.
It's fine. It's fine. We like the engagement. Rosemarie is our magazine chief editor. She's next with the question. Go ahead, Rosemarie. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for all of the information that you have been providing this evening, and thank you for coming on.
Sure.
Since my background is in education and administration, I have seen the dumbing down of our students and the indoctrination of our students rather than the teaching of our history, our civics, and so forth, in order to be able to understand the government of our country and the leadership and what we should be looking at as far as positives and negatives, and making decisions that are, valid decisions with regard to our, elections. The students are just being indoctrinated. How do we change this? Because so many areas have their own districts, their own curriculum that they are promoting, and how do you visualize changing this?
Sure, no, that's a very, very valid point, and a lot of that stuff has been done intentionally. The root of some of the public school system was really to, as you said, dumb us down, so we don't know how to fix this stuff, so we don't understand the rules of the government game. And then ultimately don't know what to do about it. I think a lot of that is actually all changing. And like you said, there are different models for public education around the country. I know some cities have their own school board. Where I live, the school boards are at the county level. But like a lot of these things, it's just a matter of now, since we, kind of delegated all of that power away to others, we've got to reassert ourselves as the authority as far as the education of our children. So it's a matter of getting into the schoolhouses, becoming volunteers in the schoolhouses, and really getting your nose under the tent and seeing what they're actually doing, exposing that, getting into the school board meetings, exposing that, making sure that they understand where you are, and then trying to rally other people to do the same thing. It's been a long road. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to unwind it overnight, but it's the drip, drip, drip. Eventually that leak turns into, a crack. That crack eventually, breaks the foundation. And that's what we have to look at longer term and just try to remain positive about what is coming down the road. But we can definitely unwind this stuff. You see victories and you see changes around in different areas. Like I said earlier, we're in a very liberal Marxist community here at large in our county because of the university. But here in my town, which is very constitutional. We're really small government, independent minded. We actually took a provision in the Florida law and actually converted one of our elementary schools from a public education over to an actual private charter school. There's a provision in the Florida law that allowed us to do that by vote. So now there's one less public education a school in the system. Now we actually can set up a local school board that now actually speaks to the values and priorities of our community in that elementary school. The middle school and the high school didn't pass right away, but we think that those will convert eventually, just because as those kids age up, they're not going to want to go back to the public school system if we've done our job correctly.
Thank you for that question, Rosemarie. Now we're going to go to our corruption pillar leader, Mageso, all the way from Hawaii. Aloha. Thank you for your question in advance.
Yeah, aloha. My question's on education too, but in a different direction. Regards misinformation and disinformation, not only from public officials at the local, state, and federal level, but also from law enforcement, that they don't seem to have a basic understanding of the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, and the U.S. laws. Short of censorship, how do we prevent this misinformation or disinformation coming out to the public from the news media and our politicians themselves? And how do you do it in your area? We know here,
frankly,
one thing I might add, in Hawaii here, our police force only has 1 hour of education for Hawaii state constitution and the United States Constitution.
I gotcha. I mean, frankly, we're doing it right here. I mean, we're breaking the mold. We're breaking the model. Old school alphabet channel media is dead, completely dead. It's only getting propped up right now by the pharmaceutical industry, because the pharmaceutical industry, let's face it, they're not buying advertising, they're buying narratives, right? So they're propping up all these media, but you see all of this other stuff popping up. I mentioned Nick, Shirley earlier. You've got Joe Rogan, you've got, all these different podcasters. You've got this show here, which are the workaround. So we can get directly to people to give them the correct information. One of the pillars of our organization is supporting local police, because we want local police that are accountable to the local communities. No dictator in history had ever been successful without their own national police force. And you saw this national policing standards that came out of the Obama administration. Well, there isn't necessarily going to be a United States police force, but you can have these sort of workarounds where you're holding every police station up to these national policing standards, which will effectively kind of do the same thing. Everybody will wear a different uniform, they'll have a different patch on their arm, but if they are standardized, for instance, you sort of have the same effect. And then they have the carrot of that printing press we talked about so many times tonight to give them $100,000 for this program and $100,000 for that program. They're just buying obedience at the end of the day. And, when they sort of do these sorts of things and then they want to pull the money back, well, then you have a political fight on your hand locally, right? So a lot of it's kind of similar in the education space, where you have the Department of Education that's unconstitutional. They're handing out grants because they've got a printing press. They get these different standards going. They local school boards, they are currying favor with the teachers if the teachers will hang up a certain flag in their classroom, or they teach a certain way. But when enough people get spun up over these things, you see things change. And I know I'm kind of in a little bit of a bubble being in Florida, but Florida was a very blue state not too long ago. Now, the Republicans have a 1.5 million point advantage in voter registrations, but I think it's within our DNA that we don't want to go back. We don't want to go back. We need to understand that we need to keep the pedal on the floor. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm the county chair for the Republican Party, but they don't get everything right either. They're just as problematic, particularly at the national level. Sometimes I think they're both selling us big government. One's just doing it in red packaging and one's doing it in blue packaging, but it's all big government up there. So I don't want to just give you a straight party line, because that's not me at all. I take my Birch philosophy and the way I see government's role into these various organizations that I'm involved in.
Outstanding. Thank you for that question, Miguel. So now we're going to go to Victoria again as for a go back. Go ahead, Victoria. Thank you so much. Sorry for that double click. Sorry.
Thanks for letting me ask another question. So how do you think cryptocurrencies are going to affect the economy?
Well, I can tell you that the government doesn't like competition. So there's a very good chance. What's that?
True, very true.
So I think that if I was to crystal ball it, I think it potentially is sort of a short-term solution. I don't know whether it is a longer-term solution. If the grid goes down, I don't really understand how that would potentially affect crypto, or just partially goes down. I know for a fact that the Federal Reserve has been working on some sort of a digital currency. Going back to COVID, nobody's going out, nobody's spending money, but all of a sudden we had cash shortages. We couldn't find coins, and all of a sudden we've got all these tap to pays and all these electronic pay options that just skyrocketed during that. That is all, in my view, transitional behavior. It's carrot and stick. It's telling you, now we got rid of pennies, which that makes economic sense. But what will it potentially be next? So I don't know. At the end, I'd like to think that crypto could be a solution. I'm not totally sold on that concept quite yet, because I know that the federal government has this big hammer with the central bank. And let's face it, they created the original financial crisis in the early 1900s so that they could usher in this central banking system, and they're not going to willingly give up any of that power or influence, for sure.
Thank you for that, Victoria. Last question for the night. Sharon from Pennsylvania will ask. So let's get her up here first. Hang on, Sharon. Give me 2 seconds. I'm trying to.
I've got more time if people have more questions.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, hi for taking my question again. This is a pretty serious one. I am actually one of the victims of an illegal immigrant here in Pennsylvania. So we have a serious problem here in Pennsylvania with that. I basically have went through hell calling out sanctuary cities here. I was one of the first ones. So what would you do about that? And also 2 days ago here, they voted not to help ICE if ICE was to come here. The police were not able to do their jobs after my car accident. They had told me at the time they could not call ICE. And I had told the police at the time that eventually I would be able to help them somehow, because the police here really need to be able to do their jobs. And I'm very concerned about that.
Sure. Well, I'm certainly sorry to hear that you had that experience. That's terrible and should never happen. It sounds like you've got some really kind of systemic issues here. Without a more involved conversation, I don't necessarily know a great answer for you, a great solution. It sounds like it's probably multi-pronged. Sure. Is it? This might be a little bit of a stretch, Sharon, but is there any opportunity for you to just flat out move and kind of try and get some of this stuff behind you?
Well, I decided I need to try to fight for this area because it was very conservative growing up here, and they slowly, it was never like this. It was all a huge neighborhood, Democrats, Republicans, everyone got along. There was no politics involved.
Mhm.
And it started creeping in slowly with the schools I saw with my own kids. And then it's just a whole money laundering, like you actually said. I said it's a whole money laundering thing, and it needs to be stopped somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just need to do your best with trying to get other people on your side that are actually seeing things the way that you're seeing them with the clarity that it sounds like you have, and then just slowly just trying to do something about it, whether it's getting elected. You can run for office without the expectation of winning, and get a lot of free press and free opportunity to talk to a lot of individuals maybe that you didn't have the opportunity to do so before. I kind of didn't really know what to expect when I first originally ran for office. But I realized that when I actually kind of got in front of some of these people, there's a lot of people that think the way that I do. So that was actually very refreshing. And it is unfortunate that we've sort of culturally allowed politics to get so front and center on us. And I think maybe it's trying to meet people on a level outside of politics as much as you possibly can. You know, I know particularly with elected officials, for instance, you can't always be smacking their hand. Sometimes you got to hold something out to them. And you can sort of build up your status and credibility if you are praising them, even if you got to hold your nose to do it sometimes, to get a little bit of credibility, get a little bit of insight, and you know, show them that, you know, you're really hopefully not, you know, trying to be their enemy, but you're trying to help. Um, and I think it puts you in a position of a little bit more authority if you have kind of built up a little bit of credibility with them when you need to be critical, for instance, and be able to kind of assert that other hand and say, hey, you know, you were really good on this, but you know, I think we kind of part ways on this. I see it this way, or I see it that way, and maybe you just it's just a 30-second thing, and then you just leave it alone. You know, they're not going to take very kindly to you just wanting to just sit there and browbeat them. There is sort of that personal dynamics. You know, nobody likes to be beat up all the time, and that goes for elected officials as well. We're not, you know, punching bags. If I'm putting that hat on, we don't just have to sit there and take it because we're, you know, an elected official. So there is sort of that personality approach that you can use. How many other people do you know or that you work with currently in your community on any of this solution-based kind of stuff, Sharon?
There's actually one, Alfie Goodwin. So me and her have been
And
working
she's part
together.
of our team too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been working together a little bit at a time the past couple years.
I gotcha.
She
I
tried
gotcha.
running for Congress against Mary Gay Scallon.
I'm sorry, she's running for.
She
tried
tried.
to
She tried
run.
last cycle.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, running for Congress is a couple $1 million investment, isn't it? It can be pretty expensive, but you know, you can work on people's campaigns. That doesn't cost you anything, and usually gets you a little bit of a seat at the table. You start networking. You know, kind of keep some lists, keep some phone numbers, and just, you know, sort of try to work in some of the circles that way. That'll certainly elevate your status and your credibility. You kind of understand a little bit about how these folks operate and kind of how they think. But you know, I tell my wife all the time, you know, sometimes my burden and my cross to bear is knowledge. You know, you start learning a lot of this stuff. It seems like it gets just uglier and deeper, and the rabbit trails just take you places you never want to go and you never want to learn. So that's not always fun. But when you take time to appreciate some of the victories along the way that I was kind of describing earlier, that can be very fulfilling. We need to take those always, because they're so rare, and really value them and really praise those people as much as possible anytime they do that. And you got to be very purposeful about that as a leader. You have to be very diligent about that reward psychology for folks. And don't lay it on thick. Don't be fake about it. Be very genuine, but come from a very genuine place to say, you know, I know that took a lot for you to stand up in front of that city commission and read that 20-second or 30-second thing that you had prepared. You know, you really ought to be proud of yourself. I think you did a great job. If you've got somebody else there, didn't they do a great job? Get them to, you know, pat them on the back. All of that stuff. You know, that's not in our day-to-day thing that we do anymore. But that's also why it becomes so important when you do take the time to do that and be hopeful and, you know, try to lift people up and not make them think everything is all doom and gloom, because we know when this country was won, it was only done by a few percent of the population. Everybody else was just kind of checked out. So we don't need everybody to turn this ship around.
Thank you so much for that, Tim. I just want you to look really quickly in the chat, validate you see the 407 number, you write that down, and that's my number, and I want you to ping me, okay? All right. You just click chat and you'll see it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, I got it right here.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on, and that's amazing interview with you tonight. And just want to know, What's your take on town hall tonight with engaging with people from all over the country? I mean, we need some feedback because we're trying to grow and we want our audience to hear what you think about it. Go ahead.
I got you. I think it's very encouraging, for me who works kind of in the activism, grassroots sort of thing, because I'm picking up on, you've got some agenda points and you've got people that are assigned to that. I think it's great that you have people that are willing to take ownership of that slice of your pie or that spoke of your wheel. So I think that is fantastic. You got to use these things as practice, right? We aren't going to get on the evening news. We don't want to necessarily be on the evening news, but when somebody puts a microphone in your face, you want to be able to speak intelligently. You want to be able to look into the camera. All of this stuff is great practice. And I think, my encouragement is to just keep working at it and keep doing it. I love the fact that you had some prepared questions. It gives me the impression that you did a little bit of homework. For me, from a speaker standpoint, I think that is great, and you're not just kind of winging it or anything like that. I mean, you seem pretty purposeful. I suspect that there's a lot of other stuff that you guys are doing in between the interviews, and that's really where the rubber meets the road, is really getting in. I know a lot in our meetings with the Birch Society, we kind of talk about, hey, what did you do between the meeting? So it gives everybody an opportunity to sort of brag on themselves. It also creates a little bit of psychology that the one person doesn't want to be answering the question, well, I actually didn't do anything this month or this week in between the meetings. So there's a little bit of fear of missing out, a little bit of peer pressure there can help out. So giving people an opportunity to talk about that, in between your interviews in your regular meetings. But just, be purposeful about what you're doing. I encourage you to do that. And you just stay in the fight, I guess.
Awesome. Can we get you to come back later in 2026?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. Have an amazing Thursday night, Tim, and we'll see you next time.
All right, take care. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That was an amazing interview. Now we're going to go to the intel round. Before we go to the intel round, I'm going to call on North Dakota Carl. He's going to unmute. What did you think about tonight? This is your first time on, and thank you, Amber, for inviting me. Carl, what did you think? Go ahead.
I had some questions for him, but they're gone now. Seems like a decent guy. Yeah, I got a lot that I was going to ask him, so I don't really know. I wasn't prepared for like an after talk kind of situation.
No, it's okay. I was just trying to get feedback on what you think of town hall, but yeah, we're gonna get you trained up how to ask questions and stuff next time. No problem.
When we first started chatting, when he first started talking, something that kind of rubbed me was he's an economist, right? And
well, he's a mayor / he wears multiple hats, but yeah, go ahead with your question. Yeah.
He had talked. Everybody was talking about how to return America back to the people and shrink large government. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think of that is removing the ability to secede from the country to the states. Right? You have to do that because that then gives the states the ability to govern themselves, right? And that forces big government, to take the sidecar position versus being in absolute authority. But the only way to functionally do that is to allow the people to get rid of positions like, no offense to Tim, he seems like a good guy, but to get rid of what I call the mob, which is political parties, and allow for direct democracy per state. But it's a separate situation with a direct democracy where not only does the direct democracy go directly to the state, but also at a federal level. That way, the states are individual mobs. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
And that way they govern themselves. And in that way, no one state particularly rules the overall group of mobs that make up the states. And that's, I think, what our founding fathers really had in mind when they were building our country, and that everybody has a voice. It's just that at the time, and when you read the minutes when they were arguing in the Continental Congress, it was impossible for everyone to be able to vote, which isn't a problem now. I mean, it's so easy to vote now that we got people voting that don't exist. And
That's fraud.
you know what I mean? So, a big government that's so powerful that they make it impossible for states to walk away from the union, which means that they have absolute authority over everyone. And we touched a little bit on local law enforcement, like he had said, where you have local law enforcement that governs the whole country. Yes, we do. And they're immune from federal prosecution effectively. Not just with, they're not supposed to have absolute immunity. They're supposed to have like conditional immunities, right? But ultimately, federal prosecution is, I'm sorry, I work at 4 a.m, so I just slammed a bunch of coffee so I could be sort of half alert for this whole situation.
Well, just hang on a second, Carl. I think Rob wanted to chime in on what some of the stuff you're saying. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. One of the things that they've got away from was that the states were once represented by the Senate. The senators were not elected. They were appointed by the state to look after the states, its concerns. But now it's basically the concerns of the right or the left, not even the people anymore. So what we need to do is go back to where the senators are appointed, which would drastically change because most of the states are red. So, it would be more right, but they need to look out for themselves. Each state is they're called states. States are also called nations. We're 50 nations bound together by an overlapping government, the federal government, which is supposed to only help us and protect us from outside influences. They're no longer doing that. They're holding they take money from the states, which should only go to like 4 different functions. And they're taking that money and, like the COVID. We'll give you the COVID money if you do this. Or back when the oil was, back in 73, you got to drive 55 or we're taking all your highway funds out. They shouldn't be allowed to take money from us and then give it back conditionally. They shouldn't be allowed to take the money first. They work for us. But the main point there is you were talking about succeeding. Well, they say divided we fall, together we're strong, divided we fall. People got to keep that in mind too. So that's all I had to say, Carl. Sorry.
No worries. We're going to go real quick, gents and ladies, to the Intel. Wait a minute, Miguel. So we're going to go to the Intel round state to state, and Miguel's going to help Valor and I run it tonight. So here's the rules, guys. Just so you guys understand, we're going to go state to state. Ron, Nevada isn't on tonight, but usually you get like a good 45 seconds to 2 minutes, and you're going to share what's going on in your state that mainstream media is not covering, or something that's concerning to you, so we all can hear what's going on and share ideas. Miguel's going to start with that, and we'll see how it goes, guys. Remember, be respectful of the mic, share it, let's not hog it, and Valerie and I will be back. Thank you so much, Miguel.
I just wanted to make a comment on the states and the federal government in control. When we look around in the world we're dealing with today, I think it's pretty obvious that our states and federal government are run by the mafia. It's not the system that we grew up with. It's not like the founding fathers' day. It's purely run by the mob. And once we clean up that corruption, then we can get back to the conversation of state control and federal government control. They're both out of control right now because they're either owned, bribed. Part of the problem is strictly run by the mob. That's all I want to say. With that, let's move state to state. Let's start with Minnesota. It seems to be in the news every day, so let's go to Amber in Minnesota.
Oh boy, I don't know what I can say that hasn't been national in Minnesota. It's everything that's happening has been plastered everywhere. Geez, well, everybody's heard about the Renee Good thing, and then we had another shooting in Minnesota here where another ICE agent shot a perpetrator or whatever that he was going after. The U.S. Attorney General's like they resigned or Pam Bondi fired him. I don't know. There's a couple different stories there that are going around. And let's see, there's so much. I don't know what else is there. There's tons of stuff in Minnesota. I can't even like think of everything because there's so much stuff going on that it's toppled over to the point where Minnesota is like the poster child for everything that could go wrong has gone wrong in our government and judicial system. It needs a complete overhaul. Every county, everywhere needs to be a complete overhaul. Like my city, our mayor hasn't even signed the pledge yet to like care about anything about the finances that are going on or the fraud. Like 241 mayors have signed this, but ours hasn't. So, which poses the question, like, why not? And like our electric bill, like this year, like we just got our first electric bill for the first year, and the taxes in Minnesota have gone up horrible. Our electric bill jumped probably about $500. And it has been everybody in the town of Austin. Like, I'm sure it's happened in other cities and stuff too that has been affected by the electric change. Yet, the cost of living is astronomical, and car insurance, house insurance, everything has gone up here. The DMV seems to like, I would like to have them investigated really, like really deep dive into them because I know that they're breaking some constitutional laws. I've been waiting for like, let's say 2 years for my physical driver's license, and they keep coming up with every single excuse in the book not to give me my physical driver's license. And so I'm kind of fighting with that now, but that's the normal around here. So I don't know. With all the fights and the protests going on down in the cities, like I want to make sure that everybody knows, like there's a lot of people that are from Minnesota, but we're not from Minneapolis. So we are not the same as them. We are different. There's difference in the people in Minnesota, and the ones in Minneapolis are not like the rest of us. Like, we want ICE here. We support them here. We support them doing their job, and people want to say about this whole Renee Good thing and all the liberal stuff and all that. And I'm just, to be honest with you, I'm kind of over it. Like, it wouldn't have happened if she wouldn't have been there, period. And let them do their job. This is what we voted Trump to do, for him to do, is to come in and clean up our cities and our states and do this. So let him do his job. Let them do their job. You may not like it, you may not whatever, but this is what we need. Minnesota needs it horrible. I know tons of other states need it. So I implore everybody in Minnesota and every other state, get up, speak the truth, get out there and stand up, and let's change something. And I yield.
Didn't Trump win the majority of the counties in Minnesota and only lost Minneapolis? area.
Yep, it's Duluth, and like there's certain just little counties, and they're all like Somalian run, Democrat, you know what I mean? But yeah, the majority of Minnesota voted red, which yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. You have fraud coming out from, like, the mayor's wife is connected to it now. Ilhan Omar's directly connected. She was trying to funnel like an extra secret $1 million out of to a fake daycare. Like, it is so ridiculous, the fraud. And if people want to be ignorant and naive and not think that it's happening, and they want to believe the left side, then I say, you know what, you guys can all go with them to their country. Just go. All of them, you could just go. You know, if you want to support them, you could go. Because, like, I work hard for my money and my family. And a lot of farmers do, and a lot of other people do. Hardworking people in Minnesota and all over this country. And we're tired of being stolen from. We're tired of people and drug cartels and all these people, rapists and murderers and everything, running free and getting to do whatever they want. And it's okay, just whatever, because they're illegal. Well, what about the American people that are here, that are fighting here, that pay taxes here, that work hard here? I want my kids safe, my grandkids safe, my family safe. I want to be able to have the American dream too for my family. But it's kind of hard when we're stifled and put back because our government chooses to put illegal immigrants in front of the American hardworking people that they love just to take advantage of. So, sorry. Yeah. Kind of little rant there. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Like to hear speaking from your heart. With that, let's move to Pastor Wendy in South Carolina.
Hey, everybody. So, you know, usual, same old with the governor's race. I think we got like 6 candidates now, all on the Republican side, all getting ready. Nancy Mace is really putting on a show out there, and then the lieutenant governor. But other than that, you know, they've been working on abortion, trying to push a few more restrictions and bans. So we've got that going, and of course, you know, there's people that are not happy about some of that. They're really fighting about the parental rights in education, and really you know, with the DEI stuff, especially in the colleges. Yeah, so now we got a lawsuit with the ACLU is bringing a lawsuit challenging what they're classifying as partisan gerrymandering in the state's congressional map. So I think they've been kind of warned about that for a little while. But other than that, yeah, that's about it. I mean, the ACLU has been kind of coming in and just, you know, I don't know, something about potential misuse of National Guard and fundamental rights, and so, you know, we're there. Somebody somewhere is hitting some nerves there. So good. I mean, yeah. I mean, we got nothing. I really, my state, the state I live in, is like totally boring compared to Amber's right now, right? Like that place is like a hotbed, and but I'll tell you, man.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that he invokes the Insurrection Act and kind of comes all through here and just done with it.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree that it's some of the stuff that they're coming on about is crazy. I heard that they had like 6 prosecutors or something step down and resign because they didn't want to. Yep. They didn't want to say anything about the lady that that got shot, and I'm sorry she got shot. It's tragic, but
it really is. But
I mean, you don't try to run over an ICE agent, period. I mean, why? You know, so I got nothing. I don't know what to say about that. It's just, anyway. So yeah, that's about it. I can't think of anything else. Naomi, do you know anything that's going on that I maybe don't know about? I'm pretty sheltered.
I was wondering this, if you saw the Senate hearings with the OBGYN. They were talking about the women and women's sports and
things. Yeah, Nancy Mace is on fire about that right now.
Well,
Like, yeah, just totally.
yeah,
And she wants to, I mean, she wants to bring back the death penalty for a lot of these, the infractions. I mean, she is, yeah, she's been on a couple of, night programs. She's really been pretty vocal about some of that. So I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. I was referencing more the one that was asked about can men get pregnant.
Oh,
I don't know if you saw that
yeah,
exchange,
right.
and this wanted a yes and no answer, and this was an OBGYN that was brought in by the Democratic Party, and she answered the question.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
got I got nothing. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, did she was that her? Was that Nancy Mace?
no, it was Jack Howard.
It was who?
Senator Hawley. Senator
Oh,
Hawley
oh.
asked.
I didn't even see that. What did they respond?
She didn't respond.
She
She
couldn't
never answered
answer.
yes or no. She went in circles. She was an expert witness
Oh, oh yeah,
on the science.
yeah.
Okay,
Couldn't answer that
let's move.
question. Yeah, I don't know. I got
Okay,
I think
zero.
I think
we're
she
going to move
came out
on.
of the University of North Carolina.
Oh, good, Frank. I was going to you, so go ahead, chime in.
No, just I haven't seen all the details of that, but her bio said that she one of the colleges she attended was University of North Carolina, which is, Ralph Barrick and his bio department are fully responsible for what happened in 2020. But hey, in Kansas, I would say, as I think Charlotte O'Hara, and I'm hearing an echo. Is that on my end?
I hope it's not. My speaker seems to be causing issues. Let me mute.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not hearing.
Yeah. So I think Charlotte brought this up about the in Kansas, it's Missouri and Kansas, where the Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals have the stadium inside of Missouri, and there's been big pitches going on, I guess, a couple of years, but it's landed in that by facilitating star bonds, they've got it so that it can be appropriated in the Legends, which is where the Speedway is, which is 40 miles from where it is today, which is kind of crazy. You're going to take, or hypothetically take, all that, all the jobs and things that have been in an area 40 miles away and port them all the way across that area. Well, what Charlotte's found out is there are a handful of Republicans that are supporting this. One of them is running for governor. I think it's Ty Masterson, but I don't know all the details, but we've had too many projects in Kansas, especially outside of our area of Overland Park, that are all supported by star bots. And these things are put in a position, long-term financing, but what ends up happening is it ends up coming out of the taxpayers down the line. And that's one of the biggest things that Charlotte's been trying to talk about, as well as, the education system here, just like everyone was talking about in other states, is trying to get a turnaround of an education system that was really put in place, as someone said, to dumb people down, to keep them in a certain box. And it's gotten really crazy in the last 5 years. So other than that, I've got to look into what our Attorney General has been doing, because his project of legally going after Pfizer has gone nowhere. There's a couple other things that he's doing, but nothing that I can really bring to the surface. I really wasn't prepared to go into all the detail. Next time, I'll have a little bit more on Kansas. But one of the things I did pick up, and as we know, we're into year 6 post-pandemic start, and no one has brought into accountability. So my friend David Martin's been really offline the last 2 months roughly. And if you go to his Twitter page, Dr. D. Martin World, he just posted an interview he did with John Stockton about 9 months ago. And it gives really a key depth to who was behind everything, who was hoodwinked on things, and how this thing really got started, and some more history. But what's happened is, the way that Tim was talking about how the overreach of governments and how our government played a huge role in closing and shutting us down in 2020. So hopefully some of that is coming back up so that it doesn't happen again. So there are some thoughts that some things are brewing that may lead to some things that have lockdown conditions pending. But I don't know. I'll have more about that to say the next 1 or 2 times that I get on here. Okay.
All right, thank you, Frank. We're going to go to Hawaii. Victoria, we can comment on maybe a couple of things like vaccinations that the governor, legislator wants to put through on the bill, and maybe the
You want to go
farmers,
there?
they want to shut the farmers down, or
Okay,
any place
I can
else
give
you
you
want. Any place else you want to go. Go ahead.
any place else. You're going to cover the vax, right? So I'm actually over in Nanakuli on Oahu today. And if I'm getting feedback, I'm sorry. I am basically camping. Thankfully, I have Wi-Fi out here, which is awesome. There was a cockfight over the weekend and 2 people died, was not reported to the police. The HPD is refusing to take police reports now. Don't know why, but that's an issue. We just had an emergency rescue on Nanakuli just literally minutes before we went live. I streamed it. Electric and gas is still up. And I think that's because we're a sanctuary state. Governor Green keeps writing bills and mandates that directly go against the whole presidential executive orders. And hello, it's hurting the people, but people don't see how it connects. So really focusing on working with people here. Another update, Kalei Akana case, HPD was supposed to have her sentencing today. It was postponed, probably because they've got a whole bunch of, information that they still haven't addressed. So that's kind of what's going on. Oh, an elections commission meeting last week, 19,000 ballots finally voted on getting a hand count. The district attorney has been instructed to subpoena those files so we can unseal the records, and the elections commission is hands off. So it's going to be by people who are not on the elections commission or affiliated. So I hopefully will get to be part of that, and hopefully we'll get an actual count of how many ballots we had on Big Island, hopefully before the next election. So I think that's all I got. I was going to ask Magaso about the connection with Maduro arrest and the Hawaii voting machines. And I know there was a connection with Hirono and Schatz. That's all I got.
All as we can say, in the last few days, our senators and House of Representatives people from Hawaii are speaking out about the issues that don't pertain to their actual own corruption, of course, to deflect what's really happening, which politicians do really well. They never answer the questions, but yes, we have our own Doge Hawaii, if you would, that keeps their thumb on things, and as well as our own people, investigators, if you would, or individual investigators.
We
So
are the media. We're the
there's a
ones
lot,
doing the reporting, so you need to know who to follow. So yeah.
a lot going on in Hawaii, yes. And briefly, we've talked about it before in the past with the farmers that they're looking to actually shut down the local farmers, just like they did the small businesses, to manufacture crisis based on beetle infestation or something else they can manufacture, where they basically take the land by eminent domain, and that's how they continue not only with the genocide of the local people, but to move out the middle class or the lower people out of the state, broaden things more for the elites. The Waialua Bridge here in Kauai still has been finished. It's going on 13 years now or more that I know of. And
Wow.
that bridge is only about, I'd say, 200 yards long, if that.
The rail's not done in Oahu yet
and
either.
it's not a suspension bridge. It's nothing really. Money laundering, we've talked about that a lot. It's big money laundering. That's
It
really
is.
what's coming out now, is we got to stop electing the same people. Recently, there was a tour of various people, Ryan Cole, Willis, and Dr. Malone came through. Got vaccination issues and protocols and things like that. So they did an island tour. Received pretty well. We're a small island, but we had a few hundred here. A little more people getting educated, but basically the information, we don't have a media that really tells the truth. It's
Yeah,
more,
that's very true.
more controlled than the legacy media in the main. It's
Well,
just,
and it's really up to us on, the local level to support each other. I mean, that's what it's coming down to, right? There's nobody in the higher up that's supporting us. And I'm going to say this quite frankly, our previous speaker was not that impressed. I don't think he's ever looked at the budget, honestly. Do you know where the money's going?
Podcasters are the answer now, the independent people.
I try to be nice, but yes, I yield.
Okay, we're going to go to Tennessee.
I'm here.
Going on in Tennessee.
We had a little bit of snow. That's about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How much?
Barely anything. It's been really cold though. I mean, I guess it's really unusual, like down in the, teens is what we're expecting. So, and that's very unusual for Tennessee. But other than that, I haven't heard much of anything going on.
Do the people think those cold temperatures are related to climate change?
Probably so.
Where do the locals stand on that?
Honestly, I don't know. I live in a really small, literally 224 people in my town, so, but I'm on East Tennessee, which is an hour from Knoxville. So I'm sure there's plenty of people there that, believe it.
Mayor there.
What's that?
You could run for mayor in that small town.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure I probably could.
Okay. I think it's Tim. We'll go back to Tim. Anything more you'd like to offer us?
Thank you, Makisa.
Thank you. Tough for me reading the small names in the. We'll go to Pennsylvania. Back to Pennsylvania. Anything more you'd like to add from Pennsylvania?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's basically just as bad here in Pennsylvania as Minnesota. You can't make it up. From the elections, because I'm a minority inspector at the elections, I started doing that like a few years ago, started getting involved in local politics because I could see what was going on. It's from the elections, the schools. Like, I know you've heard, like, I'm a victim of an illegal alien. And that's what really catapulted me into figuring out what the heck was going on here. And that's basically Soros and all those people. He made Delaware County sanctuary here. Just 2 days ago, they voted to not help ICE when they come here. And most of the people here are like-minded people, but the problem is we had a lot of the lunatics move here, and they're the ones that stir everything up. Meanwhile, then you have the Republicans here that don't do anything, that just want their money. But then you have people like us that are the ones calling this stuff out. And it's really, really bad here, just as bad as Minnesota. But like the fake news, like Trump says, they don't talk about it here. They'd rather talk about a bunch of like ridiculous nonsense, like celebrities and all that kind of, not the actual stuff that's going on here, like the schools. There was like a kid shot. He was only 16, going to Chipotle, getting an after-school snack the other day. I mean, it's craziness. And nobody's doing anything. It's really sick. So I'm like one of the few, like an Alfie, that have stood up to these people. And they don't like either of us. But it's a cesspool. It's just as bad as Minnesota. And I hope Trump comes here really quick. Like insurrection. That needs to come here.
Thank you for standing up for the people there.
Yeah,
Carl in
really.
North Dakota. Is it North Dakota, Carl? You on mute? Carl? Not hearing you.
Hello?
Now we can hear you. Now we can't. Carl?
This is muted.
You're still muted.
There you go. Now you're on. Nope. You put your picture on and then it goes mute again.
As soon as your picture comes on, you're muted.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. We can't hear you. All right. So let's see, we have.
What about Becky?
There's Becky.
And I know we got Julie in New York too.
How about
And
Rosemary? Rosemary, you
Rosemary,
wanna
yep.
chime in on Florida?
Well, we have an additional candidate that came in for governor. So now we have 4 on the Republican ticket that are going to fight it out. I understand, well, Byron Donalds has been all over the place with regard to Hillary and her husband, the Clintons there, who did not show up for their inquiry, and who knows what is going to happen, if they will hold them in contempt, which I think they should be held in contempt for not appearing before the Judiciary Committee as they were supposed to do. Are they above the law or aren't they above the law? Everyone, all of the Democrats say no one is above the law. Therefore, I think they should go to jail for what they did, because certain Republicans did, and 3 of them did, for not showing up at the judicial hearing. So I feel there are problems, but now as we have these 4 running for governor on the Republican ticket, I am hoping that they don't pull it apart, because we don't want the Democrat coming in. He was a former Republican, but I don't know what's going to happen at this point. I understand DeSantis did appoint a new judge in Florida, and right now the temperature went down to 45, so we are freezing. So that's not usual for sunny Florida. But anyway, that's about it right now, other than the Insurrection Act. But I understand that that Trump does not really want to invoke it, because that will give the Democrats more ammunition to call him a dictator. So that's one of the reasons he's trying not to do that. So all I could say is we'll have to see the next chapter and verse on this one.
Okay, thank you very much.
I yield.
Is Becky on? Becky around?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Corpus Christi, okay, that's where I'm at. And that high profile trial with that police officer that didn't take any action during that school shooting. I think it was out in El Paso where some teachers and students were killed. That started here locally about a week ago. And it was like all over the news. And around day 2 or day 3, they started talking about possibly having a hung jury because one of the teacher witnesses apparently changed her story. And then all of a sudden it's crickets. It's not in the news at all for the last, say, 5 days or so. So I don't know what's going on with that anymore. Last week I got to attend a forum for some judges that are running for 2 different districts. And that's pretty interesting, but it's kind of weird because I've become kind of like friends with 2 of them. And what's weird about it is we're on like a first name basis. And I know that, when they get voted in as judges, it's going to be your honor. And that's just such a weird thing for me. Next week, I'm going to attend a congressional debate, and I'm really looking forward to that. I might miss the guest speaker because it is going to be on Thursday, but hopefully I'll get back home in time to report on that. And that's about it for me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try Carl again, North Dakota. Is your audio now? Still not hearing you.
There we go.
There
All
you go.
right, yeah.
Now we got you.
I think one of the bigger symptoms that I see everywhere right now, it's tough in North Dakota because the state really keeps itself isolated from everything. But part of that is no one really seems to take a side or have an opinion about anything. Is that you really get to kind of develop your own ideas. And it seems like all across America, people have forgotten that before you're a Republican or a Democrat, before any of that, you're supposed to be an American. That means you're supposed to hold the Constitution of your state and the Constitution of the United States, right? And those are supposed to mean something. But you're supposed to be that first before you go picking a party and then entrenching yourself into some ideology that's preached to you by, Donald Trump, or I don't know, pick a leader. Because all they're doing is preaching what people with money or a party decides that they're supposed to go say, ultimately. And historically, and even now today, all they've done is lie, cheat, and steal. Every one of them. So why we keep giving them chances, I think, is really just because all they let us do is gripe back and forth at each other. And what we really need to start doing is, I heard a great analogy today, and it was like just the most ridiculous one ever. But like they talk about in Finding Nemo, every fish in the net has to swim down. Otherwise, you're just flopping around making noise. Doesn't matter what fish you are, what color you are, none of that matters. Everybody's got to swim down. That's all I got to say right now.
Well, it is a uniparty. We know that, and the issue has always been divide and conquer, and that's what they've done to the people on various issues and to keep us separated. Quite to keep us away from even our God or our Creator that we believe in. So it's systematic. It's a playbook that's easy to follow. Really time for the people to stand up in each of the areas, and you need to remember this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we got to stop having lifelong politicians. We got to have term limits. We have to hold them accountable for what they do because they're servants. They're here to serve the people. And you're right, people that we got to get involved locally. You got to get involved in the school boards. You got to go to the council meetings. You got to stay on it with issues that affect your neighborhoods, communities, and your county, your state, in our case, our islands. We can't sit back and just let them run amok.
The left saying we should arrest the right saying we should arrest the left. And here's my thing. I've never met a scammer or a thief who figured out a way to go lick a candy bar from the grocery store that didn't immediately replicate it and go rob every store in town. So tell me that this fraud that's going on in Minnesota isn't going on everywhere. And I tell you what, if I was a betting man in Las Vegas, my money is on that it's everywhere. Because if you can steal 5 cents at one store, you're going to steal it at every store. And if it's not you that's stealing it at every store, it's the guy next to you that you just told you figured out how to steal 5 cents at the store. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way that it works. So I don't want to hear one side saying, oh, we got to arrest them, and the other side saying, oh, we got to arrest them. And by the time we're all done pointing at each other saying, why haven't they been arrested? Here's my thing. Arrest all of them.
I want to know how come Epstein's clients aren't arrested yet.
You know,
I think
they
it
all
was
need to
you.
be arrested.
You are correct. I think Doge was supposed to look into waste, fraud, and abuse, and somehow he backed out because they were after the cars. They were setting fires to his car places and all. And you are absolutely right. There should be a Doge in every state somehow. I don't know how that could be done, but no one wants to give up that waste, fraud, and abuse because they're filling their pockets, and that's the big problem.
I just want to know, when's Epstein clients going to get arrested? Because they are guilty and we all know it. So what in the heck is going on with that?
Somebody brought up the NGOs before. On the island of Kauai, we're 72,000 people. We have 938 nonprofit NGO type organizations, which over 17 counties. And 6 of those counties actually have an address. It's a lot for such a small place. I think if everyone looked into their own county and did a little investigation on NGOs, because it's all those special programs that the government puts out and local people put out, that's where your money laundering is taking place. That's where your taxpayer money is going. And
Right.
first place to look locally.
Here in North Dakota, we don't even have an ICE office. I'm wondering how deep we are in here, because we don't have any ICE office. And I know that there's illegals here in town. I've worked with some of them. My company employs some of them. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Why don't we, right? So why only Minnesota? I don't know. I'm not a shot caller in that way. But
I think it's probably the numbers.
yeah, right. That would make sense. Most impact, right?
And the most part to let the people know that it's taking place every place. To look into their own backyards. There's a saying: if your house isn't clean, how can you tell somebody else to clean their house?
I just wanted to say regarding Carl's description, I mean, isn't that biblical that we're told that Satan and his demons come to kill, steal, and destroy? And are we not in the end times where they're being deceived? And so they're just being used by their father, the devil,
It's a good overlay. Good comparison, yeah.
Yeah, definitely Sodom Gomorrah types.
That's a good point. I mean, and it's protection from on high. We've got no federal prosecution going down the chain at any level. Even when the guilt is 100%, because of fear of reprisal prosecution on the next administration, which has created a total and complete, almost like 3-tier system now, if not 4-tier system. And I mean, God, as an American citizen, I'm just fed up with it. I'm just sick of it. I don't.
I'm ready to see some treasonous acts people get arrested, or
Well, cancel culture had a lot. Cancel culture had a lot to do with things too, because people are afraid to be next, afraid to be embarrassed, even though they haven't done anything wrong, and that got out of hand.
Americans were very good at doing a couple of things. One, we're brave. We have a lot of heroes. And 2, we have big hope. We have those 2 things in droves. And I think that that's a cultural thing that goes back to when we said the Pledge of Allegiance today. But that Pledge of Allegiance was written for the country that was breaking away from England, the Revolutionary War, right? But after the Civil War, when it became illegal to secede from the Union, I hate to say it, I really do, but I feel like that country died, because that freedom to walk away left our country. And even now, I mean, I support ICE 100%. I do, in their mission, 100% passionately. I got their back. I grew up in Southern California for a pretty good chunk of my life, and I grew up in the Midwest. So I saw a lot of illegal immigrants coming in and how it affects the economy. And I don't want to get all into that, but I support ICE in their mission, 100%. But I also support my constitutional rights long before I support anything else, because I am an American first.
Amen.
I support, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when the Constitution says I have the right to flee, I don't want to give that right up. When the Constitution says I have the right to flee, as long as the officers can get away, as long as they can get away, that I have the right to flee without being shot in the back, that's a right I don't want to give up. I'm not saying I plan on using it. I'm saying, should something ever happen, I would like that right to flee. Now, did that lady have any business being there? Oh, God, no. Should she have been thrown in prison the minute she got there that morning or the morning before or whatever because she was paid to protest? Absolutely. And here's a great idea. If you want to obstruct a federal agent doing their job, how about we institute something they've been doing in Europe for a long time, which is permanent revocation of license federally. That's a great one. How about you never get to drive ever again?
Real quick,
let's see how many people obstruct federal agents if they can never ever drive again.
Shit.
Yeah,
kind of
that'll change.
like concert with something you said before is unalienable rights and our natural rights that came from God or whoever God you believe in, creator of many names. Those are our rights that government did not give them to us. They can't take them away, and we can't give them away. And that the constitutions of each state and the laws are to protect those natural and God-given rights. That's the bottom line. Get away from that. When you mentioned the Pledge of Allegiance, the original Pledge of Allegiance did not state under God. That didn't come until 1959 when Dwight D. Eisenhower put under God into the Pledge of Allegiance because he thought the United States was turning to communism at that time. So again, it goes back to our education, knowing the law, understanding the law. People are public officials are spouting constitutions when they don't even know what the Constitution really is or what it states. They're calling us a democracy when we're a democratic republic. I mean, there's so much misinformation and disinformation out there. We have to do our own research. We have to take control of our own lives. So with that, you got something more, Kyle?
I just gotta say something real fast. The live streaming people, especially on TikTok, we gotta shut you guys down because we're gonna go in the after hours and talking about things that gets us strikes, like things that gets us in trouble on social media. So we're gonna say goodnight to the TikTok folks and possibly Facebook, and we'll continue on. Frank, give me some more feedback. Let's talk about Palantir for 2 minutes.
Hey, so what do we want to get into in Palantir? Or does anyone have any questions?
Anyone got questions about Palantir? Anybody? Megaso or?
Because I can throw this in.
Just tell us the players.
Well, so if you go back to the early 2000s, Peter Thiel was setting things up. Okay, early investor in PayPal. He had a company that actually turned into Palantir. Palantir's first deal was with the CIA, so with the government. What they have become is a company that has almost tripled in 4 years in their value. Palantir individuals like Peter Thiel have been donors, like many people in the elite level, donors into the political system. So we've all talked about what he's done for J.D. Vance, what he did for Trump back in 2015. Before that, he was the architect, along with a couple other people, in putting Obama into his office. So Jamie Dimon was at their